Your mom and dad. Your mom and dad. Your mom and dad. Your mom and dad.
Well, welcome home, family.
It's
your mom and dad.
Wow, you joined in.
Yes.
Leah's
Oh,
back.
I always join in now.
Leah's back in the studio. And listen, family, before we officially dive into our Love is Blind recapping, I have one simple question.
Okay.
And that is, JP, are my eyelashes too gaudy for you?
Zoom up on those, Lee.
Are these lashes too gaudy for you, JP? Are my gorgeous, long... Sorry if you're not watching the YouTube. These golden, gorgeous eyelashes too gaudy for you, JP?
Yeah, dude. Are they, dude?
Are they, dude? Is it? What if
You
I
eyelash shamer?
What if I put on a nice set of red, white, and blue lashes? Would that help the
You
process?
know what? It would for him.
Could I just have like 3 feet long false lashes
That's
if they
US
were
of A.
Yeah, could I have that if it's just America across them? Would that help it go over better?
Well, you know what I like?
How dare you, JP, okay?
Speak your truth.
How dare you? Anyone who has known me and been part of this podcast family for the past few years knows that I love one thing, and that is my false eyelashes. And you have the audacity, JP, in your red, white, and blue to come out and not just makeup shame, but eyelash shame. I'm gonna wear these. I'm wearing these now, 24/7.
Those are like stencil.
I can barely keep my eyes open with these things. True, but I will be wearing them for the next month as a strike against JP.
Wow. Well, I
I'm
support
so
you
mad.
100%. And also, the one thing I will say that I'm really...
See anything.
No, they're absolutely insane. And I can see the weight because your eyes are half open.
Yeah, my eyes are watering. So, and I am an eyelash wearing expert,
Yeah.
and my eyes are
Are
watering
you going to
right
take them
now.
off?
No,
Oh, you're going to keep rocking them?
I'm wearing them. Prepare yourself,
Okay.
sir.
Understand.
You're gonna wake up in the morning, and these are gonna be fluttering at you, and I'll say, "You're welcome."
I feel like I can hear
You're
them.
welcome. You probably can. They're causing wind. They're
Every time
causing
you
wind.
open your eyes. The one thing I will say that is very tasteful on your part,
Yeah.
they're golden.
Thank you
So they
so much.
match what we've been doing, the Golden
Well,
Bachelor.
you know
they're
why?
kind of, they match the background. I will say,
Thank you. You know
Very
why?
well.
You know why? Because you know who would never makeup or eyelash shame?
GGT.
Our King GGT.
Yeah.
He would be like, "Those are absolutely stunning.
Those
I
are
get
really great.
He'd be like,
love those.
he'd be like, not only do I get lost in your eyes, I get lost in those lashes, baby.
You have something caught in them. I hope you grab something out of those.
I am so mad.
Man.
I am so mad. I could not believe Love is Blind, episode 5 through 7. Last week, when we saw the preview of JP and Taylor, made the guess that he was going to give her a hard time about her makeup.
Yes.
Because, you know what? Just got the energy from the guy.
Yeah.
Wouldn't surprise me with the guy, you know? Got the energy.
Are we getting into it?
You know what, family, let's just get on it. We got a lot to cover. We got episodes 5, 6, and 7 of Love is Blind. There was a lot of drama. We're getting direct into it because I'm heated. I say, covering these 3 episodes, let's go couple by couple.
Okay, perfect.
And I know it might be then we're jumping all over the place, but couple by couple. We're starting with JP and Taylor.
So, yeah. She's through her sunglasses, you guys. She is raging. The one thing I want to
breaking the set, just tearing down the lights.
You felt so attacked.
Oh, I was so mad.
The one thing I want to say about JP, which is really interesting to me,
Oh, please tell us.
was before we get into all the drama. So the American flag thing. What was interesting is like if anyone else would have done it, it would have felt like a shtick. Like, oh, he wore it a couple times. Maybe the guys made fun of him for it or something. And then
Yeah,
he
they're like,
kind
all
of
you
was
have
like,
is red, white, and blue. And then you're like, now it's kind of my thing. And everyone thinks it's funny when I only ever wear flag print.
and so now you're doing it as like, like if it was Braden from Bachelor in Paradise, you'd be like, oh, okay.
Yeah, Braden's earrings just keep getting bigger and bigger because he's leaning into the earring situation.
But with him, I mean, he clearly has all this stuff. because
he
it's
came
not
back with it.
it's not even cool versions of it. So it's like, oh, if you would have told the stylists on the show, hey, I want a bunch of American flag stuff, they would probably pick something that has like a cool American flag design or something that's subtle, or you know what I'm saying?
Right. Well, first of all, I don't think that they have stylists.
Oh,
clearly.
okay.
But if they did even have that, you're right. It would have been like they would have done some sort of All Saints type, like stitched.
Exactly. Or like a golf shirt that has a little flag on the end. Something.
Yes.
But this man is rocking like, can I get a shirt made of an American flag type stuff? And like, he's wearing, you know, jerseys, USA jerseys in bed. Like
in bed. That's all
he's
he wears.
wearing trunks that are American flag. Also something that didn't make sense to me.
What's happening right now? Like, do you, what have you packed?
Well, he also ramped it up. So like in the pods, he was wearing mostly normal clothes, and then there was like an appearance of a flag at one point that he was wiping his tears with. Like there was some flag work, but he went from like moderate flag use to, once he met her, extreme flag use, where it was like flag top to bottom with flag shoes, wielding a flag at dinner.
It's almost like the more nervous he gets, the more flag attire he puts on. It's like comfort flag.
Absolutely. The less he talks, the more he flags. You know what I mean?
The speaking goes
it's
down.
It's a relative relationship. The more he talks, less flag. He was in the pods, more talk, less flag. Once he got out, less talk, more flag. He's like, JP, the less I talk, the more I flag. I mean, that's his national anthem.
You know what else is making me like feel really sad is that JP, we always call Jesse Palmer JP.
That's
so always
true.
For a second, I'm like, wait, Jesse Palmer for a second. When you just said that, I was like, wait, Jesse Palmer, what are you saying about poor Jesse Palmer?
We are in Love is Blind
JP.
right now. Yes. Okay, so let's get into this. I mean, he is a date's worst nightmare. I mean, he is literally like, I would much prefer someone saying a bunch of horrible shit I don't like at a date than just staring at me and not saying anything to me for hours. Like, I could at least handle a disagreement.
Lee, let me break this down for you. You know when last week Evan was talking about how if he'd be at like a party and it would be a nightmare because if all of a sudden everybody left and then you'd be stuck with JP and you'd be like, so how was the weather? And JP would be like, good. How's your job been going? Have you been having some good deals? Mm-hmm. And that was the joke? It's not a joke. It's not a joke.
I'm just talking to like a brick wall.
It's
like
not a
an
joke.
American flag brick wall.
Yeah, 1,000%. This week, these 3 episodes or 2 episodes that he was in, he didn't say anything. So they're in person. They get into the hotel room and there is a man playing a violin as they enter, like in their hotel room. And you'd think, that's a conversation starter. Like, never walked into a room before and seen a man playing a violin with flower petals everywhere. And he's just like, wow. And she's,
violin.
Wow, this is crazy. Like, wasn't our intro together? It was a little awkward. Did you feel awkward? I felt uncomfortable. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I could barely watch it because I was in a full panic.
And then when he would talk, like my favorite line of the episode was when she goes, they're walking in the water and she goes, ooh, the water's a little chilly. And he goes, yeah, it's kind of like cold, but not too cold.
It was one of the most
And
things that he said. She would say something and like be waiting for his reply. She'd give him a paragraph that included questions. And then at the end, she'd pause and he wouldn't say anything in response to her. And then she'd be like, you know? And his response back would be, you know? And he would just repeat what she said after all the questions. This poor girl was having to...
I felt so bad for her.
She had to be in a monologue 24/7. Taylor did not know that she was signing up for a one-woman theater act because the entire 2 episodes, she literally was like on stage. I have to be ripping through a monologue after monologue. I thought I was going to have a partner. I thought I was going to have other actors on stage. Nobody. It's all you, baby. And you better try to come up with things that are interesting. Like, she starts all the conversations off with questions, trying to dig deeper. Your thoughts on marriage. How do you feel after everything went down with us in the pods? Da-da-da-da-da. And then eventually it starts kind of just becoming conversation like, wow, the temperature of this coffee. I thought it was going to be hotter. And then I took a sip and it wasn't so hot. And she's just trying to fill space because he won't say
And then instead of him going, yeah, it is pretty hot, he goes, yeah. And it's like...
No, he doesn't even say yeah. He goes,
He goes, Did you notice he just drinks constantly? Whatever he drinks it constantly. So if it's like whatever drink he has, he's drinking as like a way not to talk. And
what I would give for the footage inside the pods, because what we saw in the pods was a man who we were saying was quite quiet.
Quite quiet, yeah.
She described him as outgoing. Now, I don't know if that's in comparison then to the person that she was sitting in the hotel room with.
She also said a big personality. When she was talking to Stacy, she was like, yeah, he's really outgoing and he has like a big personality. And we're going like,
I'm like, wait, but what I would give, release the tapes, Love is Blind, to see the full footage of JP in the pods to see if, did they edit it down to make him look quiet in the pods too? Like, what if actually in the pods, he was just ripping conversation the whole time and just like, and she's like, JP, will you shut up, you big talker?
And we even gave him the benefit of the doubt. We said, maybe he's not good because he can't see her, but it got worse, which is like he already was the lowest you can talk. And then it got worse as they got out. And I loved his line when he said, well, you can just talk. Because she goes, well, we don't talk. And he's like, well, you can just talk. And then when she said, well, why don't you talk to me? He goes, I don't like being forced to talk.
And I'm wondering, how did you get on this show?
That's a shocker to me. I don't understand how he got on the show.
Was this man cast? Like, I'll be real with you. I have, attempted, as I've said before, to get on reality TV before. I'm not too proud to admit that I've auditioned many times and haven't gotten in. And I find myself to be pretty charming.
Right.
I can talk. We're doing Zooms. I'm sitting with like potential producers and I feel like I'm ripping and going off. That man got in a Zoom meeting or some sort of meeting and was going through all these interviews and somehow got in.
Yeah.
It has to have been a purposeful plant. Like they had to have
known this guy's brutal, and it'll be interesting to see if someone can be tricked into loving him.
It's very experimental.
It was an avant-garde move.
We're gonna try
very
something
artistic.
new with this.
What I thought was really interesting though is I did go, you know what? Maybe there's something to be learned here, because check this out. He's brutal, right? Doesn't say a word. Even when we talked about his kissing is bizarre because he pecks.
Hold on. Okay, no, say what you're going to say, then I'd like to speak about the kissing.
But everything, we'll talk about that, but I'm just saying everything is weird about him. Everything is uncomfortable through the camera. It's like your whole body is just like on fire, squirming, right? But I will say, when he started to get angry during their fight in the bed, she even said, this is the first time you've actually talked to me.
True.
Then after the whole fight, kind of like buttered up to him, was like, well, thank you for talking to me this whole thing.
So gracious.
So, any of you single people out there, maybe try this on a date. Make it really awkward for the first like 15, 20, 30 minutes. Don't say a word. So that it feels like a desert.
Don't do this.
And then start talking so that it's like you're giving them water in the desert. So then you've given them a false sense of how awkward this is. And then you start talking and they're like, oh, relieved. And then it's like, every little thing you do now is like massively appreciated. If you come out of the gates with a great personality, you got to maintain that. So maybe come at it super boring. And then right as they're about to quit, you see them about to be like, maybe I'll call my friend to get me out of this date. You go, you know what's crazy? And then you bring it to them and they go, oh my God, what a diamond in the rough. Might work.
This is a demonic game. An absolutely demonic game.
Because think about it like him. He was so brutal. But if on like day 3, he would have really started to open up and engage, she probably would have been like, oh my gosh, what an amazing,
well, the problem was when
because he stripped her of all her joy. So then if you just leak a little joy, she's like, oh my God, I'm actually talking to someone for the first person in 3 days.
Let's play this manipulative demonic game. The problem is that when he finally started talking, it's because he was angry and rude.
Of course. Yeah, it was insane.
It was unbelievable.
But she was so starved for conversation that she was almost grateful for like the just even a fight. She was just like, oh, like someone's talking to me.
Someone's speaking to me, even though they're saying the most offensive things ever.
Exactly. Okay, let's talk about the kissing.
Okay.
Speak on that.
So, you guys, I couldn't look away, but I also simultaneously couldn't watch. I was watching through just like the cracks in my fingers, because when we saw them at first unite in the pods when they had their reveal, and he was doing what I'm now deciding to call the chicken kiss, because he does this. Gush, gush, gush.
And at one point she said, ow.
They show us a moment during the reveal where she physically says ow when he kisses her. And I swear to God, this poor woman, after spending 2-3 days with him, has to be concussed because he goes so hard into the peck. She's got bruises
all over her lips, probably.
It's wild. So I was thinking, okay, maybe this is like the awkward reveal and he doesn't quite know how to... No. Then we get into the Mexico kind of honeymoon moments. He continues to simply do the chicken peck. She's clearly trying to like hold on for a second to see if we can judge this into a little bit, not even a makeout.
No.
Just like a lip lock for more than a half of, like just a millisecond.
Something.
And he won't do it. And because of that, at first, I was like, is he not interested in her?
Yeah.
No. I can't figure it out.
Because that's what I thought. I thought he's not into her. Because that is the kiss of someone who doesn't like someone. So at first, I remember telling you, I said, he's not into her. Like, he's not attracted to her. There's something wrong, whatever. We obviously find out that's not the case, which is insane. If he's like that with someone he does like, I gotta see tapes of who he's with someone who he doesn't like.
But the thing about it, though, is that that just continued. And then even when we had confirmation that like at the beach, when they were having these talks about how he's like, I'm not going anywhere. I want to make this work. When she then... This woman hits a certain point where she's like, he's not speaking to me and he's pecking me away.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Chicken peck, yeah.
He's chicken pecking me away. The one kind of cozy conversation we had was when I'm leaning onto him and I tell him, oh my God, you have such beautiful eyes. What did you notice about me at first during the reveal? And he's like, your gaudy eyelashes.
I mean, it is
your gaudy eyelashes.
Wild.
And then he said, yeah, tried my best not to look at those. That's the most romantic. And he likes her.
This is wild.
That's the most romantic moment that they have. And she's then trying to have these moments where she's going, JP, you know, I felt insecure at first. I cried right after the reveal because I thought maybe he's not into me. And this man's response is, I'm like,
yeah, like what, dude?
You apparently you like her. It seems this way. You're trying to keep her, and you can't say, "Oh no, I think you're beautiful."
So this question,
or something like that.
Yeah, exactly.
Just a
comment, a human comment.
A human comment.
Now the question is he not good with words, or he just has no opinion about anything? I mean, he clearly has opinions because he's rocking an American flag all day. So
there's a lot of opinions going on, and I think that there's a lot that's going on upstairs opinion wise. Because when we get the makeup opinion, we get the gaudy eyelash comment, we have all of these comments.
He's the type of guy that really comes alive for cornhole.
Well, you saw it.
You know what I mean?
Like, you saw it with your own eyes when they were on the beach.
He was playing a game, right?
They had the cornhole set up, and they're like, JP, and all of a sudden he's chucking the bags, and he does like a body bump with Lydia, and it's the most excited I've ever seen him.
Yes.
Cornholing.
So he's like, me and my boys playing cornhole, that's paradise.
And my woman to the side,
and making me a sandwich inside.
No
like
makeup.
No makeup on.
She better not have fucking makeup on. That means that she's a fake person with two faces. You know that makeup stuff? You got a whole new face on you with that fake person. His words.
Yeah, so let's get into the bed conversation.
Okay, so leading up to that though, right? She is making it so clear every single day. She's like, we're not getting through. She sees the other couples. They seem to be frolicking around, making out. And she's like, we're not getting through. In the pods, you talk to me. Let's pretend that there's a pod moment going on. Please, for the love of God, something. And she's just pushing and trying every single day. He's not saying a word except for a random comment here and there that is rude and or I'm not letting go of you. Don't give up on me. And you're like, what? But you're not speaking. So then they finally are in the bedroom and she says, this isn't working. Like, it's not working. It's so awkward. And then all of a sudden, JP snaps into gear. And JP's like, well, it's only awkward because you've let it be awkward. And I say, my guy, are you making this about her?
Well, he goes, like, you've decided it's awkward, which was really interesting. So he's like, we met, it was awkward for you. Then you kind of wrote me off as awkward, and now it's awkward. Now, he would have a point if day 1 he was super awkward and day 2, 3, and 4 he was great. But she was still calling him awkward.
Sure. That's
when you'd have a point. If you see him talking and laughing and conversing and
he
long
opened up
conversations,
all of a sudden.
opened up. And then she goes, but it's still awkward. He at least could have a point. Like, hey, I get it. Day 1, I was nervous.
But then I really tried to open up. It got worse.
So it's like, how could he, so then he clearly just couldn't accept the fact that he couldn't change and that he is the most awkward person to ever live. And instead of that, he blames it on her making a decision and like giving up on him. I'm like, last time I checked, this isn't like a charity case. Like, this is you guys getting married.
It's a relationship.
And she's asked many times, talk to me.
She's also asked many times, do you want to marry me? Could you sleep next to me your whole life? And he goes, I'm like, don't know how I'm supposed to base the rest of my life off of
And then, well, yeah, it's very interesting because it's like, I kept thinking to myself, he wants out. But then he would fight for it. He would be like, no, I'm not going to give up on us. And I'm like, give up on us? Like, you haven't even showed up to day 1. I'll say this just as a flat rate, I would have given up hour 2.
Like,
for me,
30 minutes in.
For me, it's just way too, like, work. Like, if I'm having to work on a relationship
this
1
early?
week in, I'm not in. Like, work comes once things get hard. Maybe a honeymoon phase is over. There's some issue. There's some big drama that comes out. There's a lie.
2 months in. 2 months in, I'm like, okay,
Maybe some work starts.
We're starting to get some work.
Dude,
but
week 2, there's no work. It's just all fun and
I don't even
easy.
know if it's week 2. I bet it's like day 10, and we've been out of the pods for like less than a day.
That's what I'm saying.
And I'm dripping in sweat trying to talk to you.
And he's like, like, I don't want to give up on this. So it's like, give up. I mean, I'm not even thinking about giving up in week 2. I'm not even there if I feel even a possibility of give up. I think she should have brought up the American flags. I bet she would have got him talking. She should have said, you know what? I don't like America. And he would have been like,
he would have burned the hotel.
What? Dun, 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 dun. And he starts going, podcast, alpha male, whatever. Like, he started just rolling off, these things. My favorite, though, is he got a little like alpha male podcasty at the end. Because then when he's like talking to her, he started quoting things that weren't actual quotes. Like, he made up quotes.
Oh, you mean during their breakup?
During their breakup, he starts like making up these quotes, and they were great. They were quotes that were like taken from some sort of quote,
like some
like inspirational quote, but then he would kind of just forget most of the words that mattered. So he'd be like, Taylor, today is the tomorrow of yesterday.
Oh, yeah, no, when they were by the beach, that's what it was.
Yeah, and because of that, all you can do is today. And it was like, that sounds like a piece of a quote maybe, but you forgot the part about like something in it. He'd be like, you got to remember that you got to stay present during today because tomorrow comes after today. And you're like, And he's like, see what I'm saying? Like, that's enough, right? You're going to stay now, right? Like, it was so weird. Let's talk about the makeup thing. So
he's then telling her that she's the one who's decided that it's awkward. And she's like, no, it has been awkward. And he's like, well, it's just because of after the first day you decided. She's like, no, day 1, day 2, day 3. She's like, and guess what? Day 4 is going to be awkward too. Like, we're not getting anywhere. I've literally tried everything I could. And then he goes, well, here's the thing. I know that when you first came out of the reveal that you wanted to present your best self. But if you would have presented yourself like this, and he points to how she currently is, no makeup in her pajamas, then, that would have been better. And she's like, what? And he's like, well, he came out, caked up face.
Caked up face, yeah.
Caked up face, false eyelashes. He's like, I was covered in your makeup, my suit jacket after. He's like, it was like a fake face. And she goes, you're telling me the reason that you can't talk to me is because on the first day I was wearing makeup? And he's like, you were a fake person. He's like, from my conclusion, who knows if the aliens have landed? So I have to survey top to bottom to know if you're a real human or if you are actually
reptilian.
potentially reptilian or AI. So I have to do a once over 1-2 with all that makeup on your face. I cannot tell if I'm dealing with a human or not.
And I could understand that if that was your concern. Like if your concern was she was a reptilian, like
AI?
Illuminati warlord, I'd be like, yeah, I legitimately support you, JP. It is scary to know if she might be a reptilian warlord. But outside of that, I want to know how many women you know that don't wear makeup. And like, are you like in a commune, like some sort of cult that doesn't wear makeup? And then you walk. This is your first experience outside of the cult, and they've been telling you about this makeup.
The makeup is like the part of the devil.
Yeah, and
you put makeup on, and then you become a fake person.
Yeah, so they've been telling him about makeup, and he's never heard of it, and then he's like, I don't like that, just like my mom said in the cult. So my thing is like, it's so strange because it's one thing to be like, hey, day 2, you're in the, you're outside and you go, hey, you guys are getting ready in the morning, and you go, you look so pretty right now. I don't think you need as much makeup, to be honest with you. Like,
which to me is already a wild thing to say to someone that like
you barely know. But I'm saying, like, if you feel strongly about it, let's say he goes,
whatever,
oh my God, you feel like day 5, day 6, if you kind of mention while you're getting ready, like, oh my God, before they put makeup on, oh, you look so good like that, actually. Yeah, and then it's even a quick convo.
Just a compliment.
But to be like, that is the reason why I don't have the ability to have a conversation with you.
And more than anything too, it's because it's like, I know in my heart that the women that JP's got the mags of, the women that JP follows on Instagram, he talks to all his buddies and he's like, look at him, so natural. They're always so natural. And you're like, you do know that they're photoshopped with airbrushed makeup top to bottom, correct? Like enough is enough, JP. But you're like, makeup is so scary. You're a fake person. Yeah. And then he's like, yeah, the second I saw that, all I thought is this going to be every day? His words, am I going to have to deal with this? I'm like, JP, did Taylor ask you to become her makeup artist? Is that what's going on? Deal with what? Like the way
am I going to have to apply this all day?
He's like, am I going to have to deal with this? He's like, oh man, I know I'm a makeup artist, but I don't want to be in a relationship where I'm on the clock all the time, where my girls want me to do her glam 24/7. Like I know I can do an amazing contour, but I don't want to have to be working all day. I'm like, JP, deal with what? Dude,
he was an asshole, like a straight up asshole. It was really weird to see someone not talk all 4 days, and then the first thing he says is caked up face. It was all over me, like really rude too. He wasn't even like, hey, to be honest with you,
it was so
like, rude. This is what I prefer, or I think you look so beautiful. I don't think you need it. It was so rude. It was so rude the way he addressed this issue, which was already insane. It's an issue, but it's so rude the way he said it. But then also there was this level of like, what does this have to do with the awkwardness? Like, that's a separate issue entirely, So it was like, it was so strange. It was almost like he said, mommy, I hate you because you made a bad quesadilla. You know what I mean? Yeah. It was the equivalent of like, you're a bad parent because one time you made a bad quesadilla. That is like the equivalent of him saying, why don't you get along with your mom? Well, because 6 years ago she made a bad quesadilla. It's like, what?
Oh, whoa, okay.
What does that have to do with your relationship with your mom? Well, I like my quesadillas with more cheese. And she didn't put enough cheese on it. And that's why I don't talk to her. It's like, that was the equivalent. It was like the most.
She went with Monterey Jack instead
and I like cheddar. It was like so elementary and strange. It was kind of like watching two 12-year-olds fight, or like a 12-year-old fight.
Like he was like an adult, yes.
Yeah, because he was just like, because you have too much makeup on, that's why we're awkward all the time. And
well,
it's
because
like,
she even
I haven't had makeup on in 3 days, and you still won't talk to me.
Well, she had to break it down like a grown-up. She literally goes, which, by the way, shout out to you, Taylor.
Taylor, you're putting up with.
You are a literal gem. The fact that you just had, I'll be real with you, I would have flipped the bed.
Yeah.
I would have, no, you know what I would have done? I would have gone directly into the bathroom and been in there for 5 minutes, and then came out covered in the thickest makeup you can see, and I'd be like, you like this? Do you like this?
And it's just dripping and flying off your eyelashes.
It would just be like, it would be, just painting the walls with contour and highlight and like eyeshadow. I'd be like, do you like this? That's what my reaction would be. But she just is like trying to break it down and have a conversation, and is even willing then to she walked away for a second and then to come back and be like, I'm going to go and I'm going to cool down. I'm like, wow, you are bravo.
Yeah.
But she then had to say to him, she's like, well, JP, makeup makes me feel beautiful. And I wanted to feel beautiful when I met you. And she's like, a lot of people wear makeup to feel nice. And he's like, it was
like, there was one point in time when he threw a fit when they were on the beach, and she goes, "Do you want to get some food?" He goes, "Fuck that." And she goes, "What? Like, why?" Because he was a little frustrated. Like, that was like a kid. He was like, "Fuck that. I'm going to go back and play video games." It was literally like, "Where's my Switch? Mom."
Listen, I would have had such
so weird.
I would have a very different take on JP if like this man wouldn't have been speaking for 4 days, but he would have been like very sweet.
Yeah.
My heart would have hurt for him.
Yeah, been like,
I would have been like,
yeah.
okay, you know what? He's really struggling. He is feeling awkward, and maybe the cameras, and maybe he just struggles with, you know, having conversation. And that's like totally understandable, even when someone, you know, Taylor is doing everything.
But there was a major rudeness attached to it.
But there was a major rudeness attached to it. If it was just because he was shy and awkward, I would just been like, oh my God, okay, like I want them to have an alone moment so that they can maybe talk without the cameras there.
He could have just been like, "I'm so sorry. In these pods, I have so much inside of me that I want to talk about, but I'm struggling because I'm just kind of nervous and I don't really know how to be. Can we maybe you could work through like an exercise with me to make me feel comfortable?" But instead it was like this is your fault because of the makeup, because you decided it was like, how do you not, has no one ever told you that you're the most brutal person to be around?
But like also then too, it's like there was an underlying energy the entire time. Even the second that they got to the hotel,
Yeah.
there's a difference between being like, I'm shy and awkward, and then when someone is expressing certain things to you and you just kind of have this, he had this smirk on his face all the time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There was like this forever smirk on his face.
Yeah.
Where it was just like, there was this underlying, like, you know, he wanted to bring up the makeup right away.
Yeah.
You saw it. I watched I watched the episode and then I rewatched part of it with you. And that very beginning, you see this look in his face. And now after
how
knowing,
do I bring this up?
he had that look, and it was just like he wanted to say it from the top. And you know, oh man.
Yeah.
Oh man.
She'd be like, "Do you think I'm pretty?" And he's like, You know, those kind of moments. It was just like, oh God. Anyway, before we move on,
anyway,
shout
loved him.
out to,
I loved JP.
Yeah. Anyway, a huge fan of JP. He's coming on the podcast next week.
I had no thoughts about JP at all whatsoever. But
Shout out to Taylor. Everything you have, every date and relationship you're going to have from now on is going to be incredible.
That's very true.
It can't get worse than that. So enjoy a date that you're going on right now where you're actually talking to someone and they're actually saying words to you. I'm sure it'll be very exciting and fun.
And Taylor, JP should be honored to be in your presence with you fluttering those gorgeous eyes, those eyelashes at him. Like, he should be so honored. I mean, there were so many moments. I'm sorry. Like, I looked at you. I'm like, sorry, I don't mean to objectify Taylor, but you know, when they hopped in the jacuzzi and I was like, my God, look at Taylor. Taylor is a hot, hot woman. Okay. JP wishes. He wishes.
Sorry you had to go through that.
I'm so sorry that you had to experience that.
I feel bad for me that I had to watch it.
And I loved how she ended it. I loved at that final moment. He tried. He's like, let's go back and go to Houston together and work this out. And she was like,
he's like, I know it's been brutal and awkward and painful and we haven't been connected, but I'm excited for our next step. It was like, I thought he was going to break up and he didn't. I was like, what?
Yes. So when Taylor looked at him and goes, you know what? After taking into consideration what's the week's been like and last night with the makeup, she's like, first of all, I love that she said this. She goes, first of all, the makeup was an excuse.
Yeah.
I love that. But I like that she said that, that she was like, just FYI, I'm very aware that the makeup bullshit is an excuse about you not talking to me. Like, okay, get out of here. And after what I've seen, we should not be together.
Yeah.
Done. That was awesome. I am on pins and needles because we didn't see them later in the episode when they had the reunion of everybody. Even though we did have that one guy, Carter, who apparently was in the pods before.
Yeah, he's like, he's an American hero. And you're like, get the fuck out of here, dude.
Who was just like, I think Taylor just gave up on it because JP's quiet. And Milton's like, well, you know, a relationship, you do need that in a relationship. And he's like, nah, if I'd have a daughter one day, JP is the type of guy that I don't want her to marry. I was like, Carter, get out of here.
I like that he's a firefighter. He has a job, therefore he's a good person. It's like, well, what the fuck? Anyway, let's move on.
Yes, let's move on. But I'm so excited to see what goes down at the reunion with these two.
Oh, yeah.
He's not going
to say nothing's going to go down because he's not going to say anything.
Very
true.
He's going to show up and go. I was going to say, he won't say a single thing. What if all of a sudden he's at the reunion and he's just like,
what's up,
or he's
guys?
just spouting off.
Yeah. I mean, I'm here for it. Say something.
My God. All right. Wow. We went really hard on that one. Sorry, everybody. But I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it. Okay. Next couple to discuss, Izzy and Stacy.
Yes.
So Stacy and Izzy, I mean, well, after JP and Taylor are done, we really only have 2 couples. So, which is wild.
I know.
Wild that this is happening. I don't recall this ever happening. But Izzy and Stacy, obviously we saw in the reveal seemed to go well. He seemed to be nervous, but they seemed to be attracted to each other.
Yes.
And that feels confirmed during the Mexico stint.
Yes.
They are very much all over each other.
Yes.
They seem very, at one point they're curled up on the daybed and they're having some pretty intimate conversation. It feels very comfortable. Hands are everywhere. Mouths are everywhere. Like
They're getting it in right away.
they're getting it in right away. They're into each other.
Yes.
Now, overall,
Yes.
with the whole Izzy Stacy arc, last episode I said I can't quite nail Izzy, and I don't know how I feel about Izzy. And I will tell you what, Evan, that feeling has continued for me.
Yeah. Very confused feeling about him.
I feel very confused about Izzy. There are a lot of moments that I feel like, wow, Izzy seems like a really good guy. Seems like communication is good. When we're hearing, you know, even like the intimacy piece where he is like gentle, emotional, connected in that way. I'm like, okay, these are green flags. These are good signs. And then even later, we'll talk about when they had their big fight at his apartment. I felt like the way that he was responding to everything was very gracious. And then he was comforting her after. And then when he was with her family, he was saying it was like the best time for them because they had processed through their feelings and the argument.
Yeah.
There were a lot of moments where I was like, I like Izzy. But then there were moments where clearly for me, alarm bells were going off.
Yeah.
First of which was his conversation with Lydia. So when they go to the beach and he sees Lydia for the first time, he's right away like, oh, she's hot.
Yeah.
She's very attractive. He's like, I need to sit down and talk to her. When he talks to her, there's definitely a feeling of the conversation wasn't inappropriate,
Right.
but there are a lot of, I feel like unnecessary details
Yes.
that are brought in. There are a lot of, well, you know, you're beautiful. I you know, didn't even think I'm going to choose you because like you sound hot. There's a lot of conversation about Lydia's looks.
Yes.
There's also a lot of details about his journey, about like, I was really into Johnny. Stacy wasn't even on my radar. I never would have even been talking to you if I didn't think there was a connection. Where you're like, you're fishing right now.
I felt
He's
like
fishing.
he's fishing. My thing was overall, I really liked him. Like when he wasn't talking to the other women, on the whole, he seemed like pretty sweet.
Yes, when he was with Stacy.
When he was with Stacy, he seemed pretty sweet, kind of chill, putting up with a lot. We'll get into.
Sure.
But it was when he was talking to the other women, what I felt from my perspective was that he got off on being the most wanted in the villa. And he went out thinking the women still want me. And they chose these other guys as backup plans.
Yes.
And so when he met with Lydia, he was like, you're beautiful and you're amazing. And you know what? It just didn't work out because I had a stronger connection. And she's like, yeah, I know. Everything's fine. Like, I don't like you anymore. Like, I've gotten Milton. Everything's great. With Johnny, he attacked her.
Dude.
But I feel like it came from a place of, because I know you probably still want me.
Yes.
And I'm going to go on the offensive to attack you to make you feel like shit. But because I know you still want me. Because this whole thing was about how he chose Tyler, how she chose Tyler second, how she was the whole thing was about how she chose Chris and how it was like a bullshit thing and he was a second choice and he deserves better. But that's on the basis of, because I know you still want me. So his whole thing was very egotistical in the way that he was talking to them. He could have just both said to them, hey, it's so good to meet you. Oh my gosh, I had a great time talking with you in the pods. You seem like a wonderful...
Sorry if I, you know, yeah.
You know, I'm so sorry that, you know, we didn't see eye to eye, but it seems like you're so happy and I'm so happy for you. Both conversations could have been like that, but instead he made it all about him. And it was really weird. And that was like a weird moment of like, he had to make sure that he felt that he was the hot shit and that like he had to let him down. He had to let him down. And it was like very egotistical. And both women were like, what?
Well, both women were very much like, I am very happy with who I chose. And I was surprised with Lydia because Lydia in the ITMs, we hear her go, Izzy's definitely typically my type and he's attractive, but I'm super into Milton. I thought all of a sudden when Izzy and Lydia are sitting down, I'm like, uh-oh, here we come. They're going to start flirting. And I thought when he's starting to compliment her that she might be leaning into it, but she shut him down.
Exactly.
She was like, hey, there's no bad blood. I don't hold grudges between people. I'm super into Milton. I'm very happy. You seem very happy. Let's move forward. And she shut it down. If she would have, I think if Lydia would have played into the flirting and would have allowed the like, well, I did have a really deep connection with you and let that open up, I think we would have had a lot of drama on our hands. I think we would have started having some playfulness going on. I think Izzy would have been a little bit like, well, Lydia is so
maybe
beautiful.
I'll talk to her a little bit more and drink some. But, you know, and that's where I really felt like it's the same thing. It's like the really insecure guy thing. Uche did the same thing. Instead of coming in being like, hey, he came in and was like, I need to make sure Lydia still wants me. You know what I mean? I want Milton to feel like he's second choice.
Yes.
And that's the same thing I got from Izzy about the other women. It was like, I need to make it still known that I'm the top dog and that all these women still want me and that you all guys are my friends. And it's just sad that you guys are second choices. Like it was very that energy.
Well, and I personally feel like, so with the conversation then, which is then again, like you were mentioning, was the other massive red flag was when he spoke to Johnny later, which by the way, Johnny and Chris,
awesome.
They're dating. I don't know now if they're still dating, but they're dating as of when that was filmed. And she is crying, talking about him. They seem so lovely together and like they're super into each other and we love to see it. Honestly, they seem like the happiest couple.
They really do. They seem super comfortable.
They're not being followed by the cameras. But I think I fully agree with what you're saying, where it's the ego of like, I still need to be the most wanted. I also think there was a combination of why he immediately came in and like attacked Johnny about it. She sits down and goes, hey, you're super happy with Stacy. I'm super happy with Chris. And he's like, yeah, I made the right decision because you're sketchy as fuck. That was wild.
And then he reported back to Stacy that she said he was sketchy after she just was like, no, you're sketchy. Well, and then she made that the narrative.
But that then was the whole thing that I then got stuck on was the fact that he like came at Johnny.
Was really brutal. Called her
so
like
rude.
Basically called her a piece of shit, like she said.
Was so unnecessarily rude.
She was taken off guard. She was not ready for it. She was like, whoa, I didn't know my character would be fully assaulted here.
No, not at all. And then he grabs Stacy, pulls her away, is laughing. He's like, oh God, I love you so much. I'm so grateful for you. Like you and I have it so good. And Stacy's like, what are you talking about? And he's like, I just told Johnny off. I just told her she was sketchy as fuck. And at first, Stacy seems a little happy because she clearly does not like Johnny. But then she's like, why are you so annoyed by this? Because we all know when you don't care, you have apathy.
Yes.
But he really cared.
Which
means
he care?
He does care to a certain extent. So I was getting kind of in that moment a half and half. Half of it was like what you were saying, which is I need to feel like I was the first chosen and that guy was secondary. And now I'm feeling not good about it and insecure because she's happy with someone else. I thought I was going to have the upper hand. Johnny was going to come walking in heartbroken, wishing that we were still together. And she's going to be so devastated when she sees me. Yet she comes in so happy. But I think the other part of it was because him and Stacy were starting to kind of go through it, that he's then feeling insecure in his relationship with Stacy.
Because she was making him feel like he was weak and kind of like not a man in that way. Because it was like, you know, it was about the plates and the cups and the way that he had the lost and found drawer. There was all these kind of critical elements to their relationship.
Yes.
And so he was almost being like, watch how much of a boss I am. I'm going to tell this girl off. And then you're going to be hot for me because I went out after your enemy. And she smelled, you didn't do that for me. You did that for you. Why do you care so much? It was reeking of, I saw Johnny, thought she was really pretty. In order to counteract this feeling I'm having, I'm going to go after her to kind of like prove that I'm not attracted to her.
Yes.
It was almost that.
It was so those moments I was like, as much as throughout the episode when Izzy is with Stacy, I was like, seems like a really good guy. But then when he's with the other women, I'm like, I'm not loving this.
Yeah, I agree.
And especially the Johnny conversation.
Thing was
it was so inappropriate.
Lydia, it was kind of like a preference thing. It was kind of like a little weird, kind of like a lot of compliments, but then kind of made it about him.
To me, that was more of like what I'm smelling. I'm like, I'm smelling this. It wasn't inherently wrong. Nothing was wrong about it. But I could just something smelled, off. But the Johnny one was so inappropriate. That was just like, what are you doing, dude? Like, you're just coming at this woman. Like, my goodness.
I want to talk about the money situation.
So Stacy.
Stacy. Let's get into Stacy because I thought this was like a very interesting conversation that had many layers to it. It wasn't simple to me.
Yeah.
Because in one element, if you watch, you know, everyone watching the show, I know people don't even watch the show, but they just like us listening to us talk. Basically, they go to her house.
Yeah, sorry, this is probably very confusing.
She's got a beautiful house. She's got nice cars. She's got nice things. Everything's very put together. She's getting a remodel done. You could tell, and she says, like, I like nice things. I got bougie taste. You know, when I travel, I like to stay at the nicest hotels. Like, that's her whole thing, right?
Yeah.
You could tell he's sweating a little bit from it. He's kind of like looking at going,
it's a lot of pressure.
It's a lot of pressure. So then she goes right away, like day one there. She's like, I want to talk about retirement, 401k. I want to talk about your savings. I want to talk about your income. I want to she starts grilling his ass on his money.
By the way, I think the money conversation is extremely important before you're getting married, right?
Completely support that conversation.
As a child of divorce, I can say yes, indeed.
And she was saying the exact same thing.
That's what I'm saying.
Like,
I saw her in that way.
Everything about what she was saying, mostly was like, okay, that's absolutely fair and legitimate. The way she was doing it was very intense. And so it started off with like, I want to talk about money. I want to be open about how much you make, how much you have, what's going on, how you spend. Where it went south for me was where she kind of was like, I'm a badass. I got money. I come from money. I like to spend money. I got my shit together. If you move into my house and we need a new HVAC unit that's 20 grand, you got to go half and half with me. If we got an issue with the car, you're helping me pay for it. So basically saying 50, 50, 50 with all my expenses.
Yes.
But then all of a sudden turns into like, and by the way, our vacations, my dinners.
I think it was just dinners.
Okay, whatever. But like my nice dinners I want, you have to pay for it all the time because I like a man to pay. So it was like very confusing. It's either like, you're the man, pay for everything. I want a traditional old school relationship. If like that's what you want, you have every right to like say that. But then you can't, on the other hand, be like, I'm a badass. I do whatever I want. And you better split all my costs of my house with me. Because he goes, oh, okay, 50-50 on the HVAC unit, 50-50 on the car. Cool, 50-50 at dinner. And she's like, whoa, no, you pay for all that stuff. And you could tell he was kind of like trying to understand what she was doing there.
Yeah.
But it seems like she was confused on what she wanted. She's kind of like, I want to be this independent person, but when it's convenient for me, I want to be dependent. And so that's
I felt like it was like definitely like wanting to have your cake and eat it too vibes. Where, you know, obviously, like, hell yeah, celebrate the badassery of, like, this is my home, I fucking work my ass off, and if in the necessary conversation of, if you're gonna be moving into this house, like, let's be real here, like, we're gonna be, like, what are your expectations? Like, we're gonna be splitting this 50-50, you know, this is, if you want to live here, you know, all of this, I think it's all a great conversation. I was then lost when the conversation was like, I have champagne taste. When I go on vacations, I blow it out. I love luxury. We're going to stay in the nicest spots, eat at the nicest restaurants. And again, you're communicating that with someone, great. But then it's like, but I'm then going to laugh when you say you're going to expect to pay 50-50. It was a big energy thing for me where it was like, you're telling him like that when I vacation, when I go to dinner, I'm going to do it big. And then you're going to like laugh at him. Kind
of shame him. Like there was multiple times where she was like.
Well, that definitely.
Well, yes. she was like, I've never had a man not pay for me. Basically like, are you even a man? Kind of vibe. Like it was like a laugh in his face when he's like, well, okay, cool. We'll go 50-50 on all the costs. And then we'll go 50-50 at dinner. And she was like, I've never had that done to me. What are you even? And it was just kind of like, whoa.
See, that was the thing to me. It was the energy. It was the energy. If the energy would have been like, okay, so here's the bottom line. Like, we're going to pay for 50-50. I work my ass off, da-da-da-da-da. And then that's the conversation. And then on top of it, you're like, but I'm going to be real with you. I live a luxurious lifestyle. Yeah. So are you down to know that like half of your money is going to be going to this luxurious lifestyle? Okay, fine. Well, then also, I do like to have a guy. I mean, that's a lot. But it was the laughing of like, you expect to pay 50-50? Please, the man always pays for dinner, always. And I'm sitting here going, as someone who's been in a relationship for a long time, I'm like, I understand people have their preferences when you're dating, but like, this list is too long.
Yes.
Like, this list is, you pay 50-50 on all the house expenses, great. Just FYI, I spend a ton of money on luxury and lifestyle. You're going to have to pay 50-50 with that. Okay. You also have to pay fully for all of our dinners. Okay. And I'm going to laugh at your idea that you don't think that that's what's going to be happening.
Or keep the same energy. Go, I got my own house, my own cars, I do all this stuff. You won't have to pay for anything, but I'm going to pay for everything on my own. You pay for your half of everything. I'm going to sign a prenup. You don't have control of my money.
Love a prenup.
Cool. Okay,
Love
cool.
a prenup.
Then
Put
it's
that
like,
prenup
cool.
out there, baby.
I'm in my own world.
Yes.
You don't fuck with my world. We're cool. But it was like, she's like, you don't fuck with my world until I get more out of you than you get out of me. It was like, wait a second.
Yeah, it was very much, I would have loved the prenup conversation, especially when she starts then talking about the fact that her family has money. And she's like, will my dad pay for everything? Yes. And so that then was another added thing where I'm like, okay, hold on a second. You're saying and admitting that like, okay, great, good for you. You're in a privileged situation where if you need it, your dad's going to pay. But then you're laughing at him, who's also working his ass off, and then laughing that like he wouldn't pay all the dinners fully for you, when then you're also saying that you have this privilege. That was where it was just like, dude, this would have been a great conversation to talk about a prenup. This would have been a great conversation to, I guess, have a conversation about it. More like, what are your thoughts and feelings on this versus like, this is how it goes.
Which takes me to his apartment.
Yes.
Which was clean and very nice.
I gotta say, I was like, yes. His apartment.
He's in his 20s, dude.
Yeah.
And he has a clean, nice apartment. The only thing,
he lives
there's two
alone.
things. Lives alone. But the one thing is he has paper plates and cups because he's like, listen, I don't want to do maybe a lot of dishwashing, whatever. Sure. Is it not like super adult? Sure. I mean, whatever you want to say, you know? But like,
I mean, I was sitting there going like, if Stacy saw my kitchen and my eating habits, where I'm like, you know what? At least the guy has plates and cups, because some of us only order takeout and don't even have that.
She just felt very performative to me. Everything was about like, isn't this nice? Isn't this nice in my house? Isn't this nice? Aren't I cool? Isn't this car nice? Isn't this neighborhood I live in nice? Like, it was not about, I just didn't feel like genuine. It felt like performative. So when he had some paper plates and cups, she didn't go, by the way, we need to change this. I'm going to get you some plates and some cups, and we are going to upgrade your lifestyle. Even that would be like, okay.
Like hugging him, kissy, kissy. Exactly. Like, we're going to go shopping together.
Instead, she's like, what kind of man does this? It's like very, you know what I mean? Like, again, shaming him.
Yeah.
And then when it came to the lost and found, he had a couple things in a drawer. After she made comments like, wait, you don't even have a nightstand? When girls come over, where they're going to put their jewelry?
So she brought up the women.
She brought it up. She brought up the one night stands or the sleeping together or the whatever. And he goes, it's funny you mentioned that. I kind of have a little bit of a lost and found. And he had like a couple rings and a couple necklaces from maybe people he didn't know whose they were because of people who he had hooked up with. That was the innuendo. And instead of going like, oh my gosh, get rid of this right now, ha ha ha, she just goes, what kind of sane person does this? Like, makes fun of him. Like, dude, and then the second he calls her out, and by the way, he was calm.
Staying very low key.
She leaves and walks outside and is like hunched down crying. Like, for me, this whole thing is a small conversation about the paper plates and the drawer.
The lost and found.
The lost and found. It's like you go, hey, are you scared? Are you kidding me? Get rid of this right now. You grab it, you throw it in the trash, you all laugh about it. You take the paper plates.
Or you have a conversation where you go, listen, clearly the reason that she was upset by this is because she felt jealousy, which is totally normal and fine. Like, you're in love with this guy, you see this drawer. Did you bring up the women thing jokingly? Sure. And then he continued, it hurt your feelings. You see the lost and found, you feel jealousy, completely understandable. That conversation is, hey, I'm gonna be real with you. I saw that lost and found and it kind of got a feeling in my stomach and I'm feeling jealous. I'm feeling a little weird about it. Like, do you have a lot of one night stands, or is there a reason that like maybe we haven't really talked about that much? I heard that, and again, I'm pulling back from when she was talking to Taylor earlier where she's like, people told me he was a player. So she's probably feeling that in her stomach. Like, oh my gosh, is he more of a player than I thought? And then you can be honest with him about that. Listen, I heard these things, and I'm not saying you are, but when I saw that, I'm like, why is he keeping this stuff as like trophies? What's going on? Like, there's a single earring, there's bobby pins. Why did you keep it? and it kind of hurt. And I'm feeling these ways.
It was just very immature.
But it was very accusatory. And then also the way that she was wrapping it up, I couldn't follow. So I don't know then how he was feeling, because I was like, what you're saying then about him, and then kind of trying to tie him in a pretzel here where there wasn't a right answer that he could say, where it was like, oh, you're trying to show it off. Well, I know you're not trying to show it off, but then like what type of person just leaves it there? And what, like, how could you? And I'm like, I can't follow where you're going with this. So I don't know how he's following it, feeling that emotion in the moment. And then with the whole paper plate situation and the plastic cups, the way that it would felt very like mocking. You know, if I was him, that really stings, because you guys have had conversations where, you know, he's communicated with you like, I wasn't raised the way you were raised. Like I have worked my ass off.
Yeah.
Okay. Like I'm proud of where I'm at. I'm proud of who I am. I've worked really hard. Look at this beautiful apartment that I'm in. And you're out here talking about how, you know, family's loaded and dad sends you whatever money you need type energy. Like, can we not pause for a second and like think about this?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, no, I agree. And that brings us to the family situation, which made it worse to me, because there was immediately just rough. A money shaming issue right when they walk in. They start roasting him for not having a passport because he hadn't traveled. And she's like, isn't that crazy? He's never even traveled overseas.
And then
it was
he's
just
saying like,
okay.
yeah, you know, financially it just wasn't an option when we were growing up. And they're all laughing.
Yeah, they're all like,
oh,
well, that's not going to work because she travels a lot. And so you better get your finances together.
Well,
like,
and then they put that together with like, well, are you sure about like your career?
Yeah. Like, where are you even at with that? So then he had to kind of say, hey, you know, I just got this job. I'm about 2 weeks in. And then I saw, oh, there's the sweat.
And I have to be honest with you too. I did appreciate, to Izzy's credit, that the fact, first of all, he kept very calm through the whole thing. He also was honest about the fact that he just got a new job. If I would have been in Izzy's situation, the pressure I'm feeling with these people around me, I would have maybe lied. It would have been hard not to be like, to make it sound like, oh no, I'm still with the same job, but to be like, oh yeah, I just switched job. I'm like, jobs, because I wanted to have a better work-life balance. I'm like, these people are going to judge me. And
then she brought up like an intimate conversation they had about the paper plates and the lost and found thing in the middle of the family, just like immediately. Like he goes, you know what, yesterday was good. I thought we had a good day. We worked through some stuff. And she goes, I disagree. I'm going to tell him. And then just one off.
And she said, I didn't expect his place to be the Ritz, but he didn't even have glassware.
So there was like a little shame there. Like, you know, I know he's not rich like I like, but I didn't expect it to be this bad. And so that was brutal. So that the vibe, and the dad just sitting there quiet. Everyone else was grilling the shit out of him about money mostly.
Yeah. And
like wealth and like traveling. It was very little about like,
who
are you? And you seem like a great guy. Tell me about your family. It was just like, do you have enough money? Do you have enough money? So he goes out with the dad, and the dad's like, you seem like a nice guy. And I don't want to make this about money, but my daughter, she likes nice things. And
he goes, you know, love is great, but sometimes, you know, love needs to eat. Sometimes love likes to fly first class. Yeah. I was like, oh my God.
Yeah. And Izzy's trying to convince himself it's going to be okay, because he's like, you know, I got this brand new job, and it's a sales job, and I'm excited, and the sky's the limit. I'm going to make so much money for your daughter. Don't worry. And the dad let us know what the real factor was. Accidentally because
slipped.
He goes, are you going to be able to handle this? And Izzy's like, yeah. He goes, because if you don't, I'm going to have to.
He literally
basically leaking the fact that like I pay for like everything my daughter's telling you that she pays for, I pay for.
I mean, maybe she. Exactly. I mean, I think it seems like she works her ass off. But
there was dad is still very much in the picture here financially. And if you don't pay, can you please marry her and get rich? Because I don't want to pay for all this stuff anymore. Like that was the energy.
He literally said, he was just like, I guess this is your responsibility now, because if it's not your responsibility, it's going to be my responsibility. I was like, oh God, it is.
And he didn't say,
he's like, please go ahead, marry my daughter.
By the way, he didn't say one time about, do you care about her? Are you going to break? I don't want you to break her heart if you break up. You're going to love her. It was like hey, here's the deal. Financially, it's a nightmare. Can you handle that? Feelings, whatever. She's killing me with the bank account right now. Can you please just pay for some of this shit right now? Like it was literally that simple. Really, really wild. But all in all, with them, I felt like they care about each other a lot. He's got a little bit of an insecurity regarding the the other women and kind of still wanting to feel wanted. I think he feels less than with her. Yeah. With Stacy, makes him feel...
Well, we see the commercial of him. He literally says that he's like, you're making me feel less than.
I think he's stressed about the fact that he has a new job and he hasn't like probably made any money yet with it because he just started.
Yeah.
He's nervous about her level of needs and the fact that she isn't like, let's be real, kind of the most warm person in regards to these issues.
Yeah.
Like when she's warm with him, it's about sex. Like all the comments are about like how big he is and how hot he is. But when it comes to like interpersonal relationship, it's very like, this is what I want, you better give it to me, and if you're not strong. And so it was very like, I don't know, I just felt like, you know, it was weird. It was just a weird energy.
And then there was a lot of then moments even when there was the group where listen, if I don't know what went on behind the scenes, I really don't. Maybe Johnny was really rude to her behind the scenes and Stacy had been super nice to Johnny. I don't know. Who knows?
All we can operate off is what we see.
But what I saw was, you know, Stacy apparently told Renee that she wished that she poisoned the cookies shit in the cookies, excuse me, and gave them to Johnny.
Said she was a joke.
Said she was a joke, and it was pretty intense. And I was like, dang. And then when she was talking to Izzy about it after, it was like, don't compare me to that mess. Like, it was just really intense. And I know that last episode, I said that I think that we're going to get to know Stacy better and like the walls are going to get broken down. And, you know, we're going to see a lot of things that we didn't before. And she's going to open up more. We didn't necessarily see that in this episode. I think she had some really nice moments with Izzy when they were like, you know, feeling the romance and they're very like giggly and sweet together. But I do think there's a lot of clearly walls with that money and with all of that shit. And it was rough. There were a lot of moments in this where I was like, yikes, like I am not comfortable with what feels like finance shaming going on.
It's all for me, it was the communication style.
Yeah.
Like you can feel however you want to feel about anything, but just talk about it in a nice, caring way.
Yeah.
And I was sensing a little bit of this early on with Stacy. I remember seeing some of the clips and some of the like ITMs, and she would make comments about like kind of ridiculing people, and I was like, ooh, and then she kind of backed off of that for a little bit, and then it's really ramped up, and so I'm a little nervous because it's like it's definitely like a defense technique to just kind of like ridicule others to make yourself feel good. That's a little bit of the energy I'm feeling.
Totally. Now, as far as the two of them go, this is my prediction. Okay, I think that they're going to get married.
Yeah,
I think they're going to get married. I don't think that they're together anymore.
Got it. Okay.
I think they will have split. Because of exactly what we're seeing right now is the finance pressure and all of that.
I think they're going to get married. And then he is going to be like in servitude of her financial desires. And he's going to be like working his ass off and watching a bunch of inspirational videos on the way to a sales meeting to be like, you're right, I am an alpha. I can make $1 billion in a week. Don't be be a sales king. And he's going to go in there being like, I could better execute this, or she's going to be tweaked about the fact that we can't get that other, like, third Mercedes. You know what I mean? He's going to be watching lots of inspirational videos.
I just, for some reason, feel, I see this. I also, if that is true and they're not broken up, I think he has a new job.
Okay.
I bet he works for her dad now.
Oh, that's a good move.
I bet that she's probably like, listen, you know, God bless, the man was probably working his ass off, right? Working so hard, trying to climb the ladder. And it was like, it's not fast enough. And it's like, go work with dad. And dad's like, okay.
Certain people like that, it's like, you just need to marry a rich guy. Because if it's so much about money, like, just marry some rich guy. And then just make the feelings thing like not as much of a priority. And just marry a rich guy. If that's your thing, do it. If that's what you need.
If that's the priority and that's what you desire, God bless, baby. I'm all about it. Go, you know.
Go do your thing. But stop hiding in this like weird world here. Next up,
we have Milton and Lydia.
The shocker of the year for sure.
Okay. So these two are, we see their reveal. We hadn't seen their reveal before. Yeah. And with their initial reveal, I was like, damn, they're making out a ton. Yeah. But it also feels a little awkward. Yeah, yeah. She didn't like run into his arms and smother him the way that I thought she was going to. It was a little more like, you know, slow. And so I wasn't quite sure if I was reading it the right way. And then as soon as we get to Mexico, they're batting back and forth. Insult, 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 insult.
But fun.
But at first, I thought it was funny. Okay. But at first I was like, is this one of those things where they have sexual tension and then they're going to hook up one time And then after that, they're going to hate each other because like they actually are really annoyed by each other, but there's sexual tension. Do you know what I'm saying? And then all of a sudden the back and forth comments then start getting real.
And then
they're
Lydia's
really
flirting
annoyed
with Izzy and flirting with Uche. And then you're seeing like the cracks. And you're like,
I saw the potential of it absolutely crumbling.
Agreed.
But the thing about this whole thing is that like, I feel like people are going to strongly disagree with this. I really do. Because I know a lot of people have a lot of big opinions about Lydia. I feel like they are working well together.
What we didn't account for, especially me, was Milton's swag.
I told you, I was like, the guy has some serious swag on him.
Because we all knew kind of what generally what her vibe was. Talks a lot, says a lot of things. You saw how she was with Aaliyah. You know, you're kind of like, woof, okay. Like, you know, and then Milton absolutely stepped into it all the way. He embraced his nerdery. So he didn't go, oh, I'm going to hide the Pokemon stuff. He's talking about it right away.
Oh, yeah.
He embraced who he is. When she would roast him, he'd roast her right back. When she would try to bully him, not in a mean way, but like when she tried to get him to wear the black shorts.
Yeah.
I was thinking to myself, oh, Lydia is probably used to being able to like force a guy.
You'd be like, you are wearing
the black shorts. And he'd be like, fine. He would kiss her and go, no. And she'd be like, no, you're wearing. He's like, no, I'm not. And then ended up not wearing them. Like,
he didn't do it.
And I think that put Lydia in a good place with him of like, oh, okay. It almost feels like she's used to kind of pushing people to see where the limit is.
Yeah.
To see what her relationship is. He made it very clear. There is no pushing here. And then once that, you saw her settle into it and feel secure. To where like she walks right up to Izzy and right away it's like, I'm not interested in you at all. I love Milton. We're good to go.
I know.
Walks right up to Uche and is like, I have no desire to be with you. I don't even want to talk to you at this party right now. Which was the shocker of the century because Milton.
You were like, there's no way this is going to work.
He's going to get chewed up and spit out in a week. Like there's no way. Dude, we were not realizing how much of a baller he was that he could like. And then because of that, they like, whoosh. She clearly needed someone that was going to like hold her tight and be like, I got you.
Yeah.
And he needed a little bit of friction to create excitement. And they really did find that in each other. I'm blown away, but I absolutely love them together.
I don't know what the community's take on this is because I feel like in general, because of people's opinions about Lydia, everyone's going to be like, this is a nightmare. No, I couldn't help it. I smiled watching them the entire time.
Yeah.
I couldn't help it.
I know.
I mean, you know how I love Milton.
Yeah.
But like them the whole time made me laugh. I could see how some people would be watching it going like, oh my God, they're always just like batting back and forth. But like they both seem like they're having so much fun. It's like some people's love language is being playful like that.
I love that. She would be like, well, you're like 12. And he's like, well, you're old. And that was the perfect response. And they would laugh.
And
you know what I mean?
I think
instead of him being defensive, no, I'm not. I'm actually 24 and actually I'm good. He would be like, well, you're old. And it's like, that's the perfect way to play that.
I think for me personally watching it, I liked it because I like that.
Yeah, it's fun.
I like to, I like to be playful. We give each other a hard time constantly. It makes me feel loved. Like, I don't know. Just how I feel. I like that with my friends. We're playful. We go back and forth.
It's like a show of love when you can roast each other a little bit.
And it's sometimes hard to find somebody who totally understands that you're not being serious and that you're being playful and whatever. And I felt like they kind of just both saw each other where then they, at least so far, they haven't had any disagreements where someone crossed the line and was actually being serious and the other person thought they were joking and they had a misunderstanding. It seems like they've kind of been on the same page the entire time.
I think he's just so comfortable in himself. And I think that's
he really is.
Most guys would have been maybe embarrassed by the Pokemon thing, embarrassed by the gaming, embarrassed by the microscope thing he's got going on, try to hide it and
or
be like,
felt insecure with her and defensive when she was giving them a hard time.
But he owned it all the way.
Yep.
Owned I have a roommate. Own I'm into this quote nerdy stuff that she would say, and he'd be like, yeah, I like it. And by the way, I like this cow rug.
Oh no, yeah, and when she was like, these are the most disgusting rugs ever, he's like, oh, I'm gonna sell your ring and I'm gonna buy 1,000.
Yes,
it was so funny.
He was so good, and that's what she needs.
Yeah, and I think she liked it.
And I think because of that, her real true personality, I feel like it came out. And versus the Uche thing, Uche brings out like the worst in her, you could tell.
Yeah.
So I'm sure she had some like maybe some toxic traits around him, made some decisions that she regrets. Maybe did some of the stuff like the stuff he was mentioning, maybe not, because we're kind of feeling like it's hard to know what's going on there.
I don't know. It's just a little bit like who's telling
who's telling what. But the one thing I will say is that Uche's relation, like the way he interacts with Aaliyah and the way he interacts with Lydia felt toxic. It felt like you're kind of blaming them for all your things too, and it's weird. And then you find out all these things. You know, his big thing is lying, but then he ends up lying a bunch. But when you see Lydia with Milton, you see like all the good parts come out. And I feel like that's what's, you know, any relationship can be. Anyone can drive anyone nuts or bring out the good in them. And that's what I felt like Milton and Lydia. They were bringing out the good in each other.
I felt that too. And I felt like her conversation with him and her family was so sweet.
Yep.
I love her brother. He was hilarious. Yeah. And the fact that Milton was like, I've always kind of wanted in a family where like you all are just really in tune with your emotions. And I think he really appreciates that about her. And at first I thought, I was like, oh no, he's regretting his decision. Milton, like, trust me, I feel shocked and bamboozled right now. I was like, oh my God, this is going to be a nightmare. And the whole time I kept bracing myself for a nightmare. I was like, oh, the ball's going to drop. And at least so far, who knows, maybe episode 8, it all goes south.
Who knows? But so we're judging is
at least
right now.
what we're seeing, I'm like, I'm going to be honest with you, I think that they're funny together. But we see then, you know, the preview of Milton's family meeting her, and it doesn't look like it's going great. So maybe that's going to shift.
Who knows?
And I'm not sure. And then also then Uche talking to Milton, like who knows what direction that goes. But we do see them in the preview at the altar. And I think they're going to get married.
Unless something happens or some secret comes out that blows it up, I don't see them not getting married.
I think they're going to be the one successful couple, which is wild. Like I bet they're married and they're still married.
I really do feel that way. Just want to make a side comment, kind of an MVP moment, was Milton's roommate.
Josh, MVP.
This guy walks in.
I'm obsessed. Bring him on the show.
Hilarious, because he comes in
Season
and he's
6.
literally immediately going, wow, he's been talking about you, about how amazing you are. Milton's the best guy of all time. And then anything that would like kind of be slightly negative, he would take blame for. So like there was like
so sweet.
he sits on the counter next to Milton and they're both like, yeah, we love Pokemon and we love gaming, and he would just be like, do you know how awesome Milton is? Milton graduated early with an associate's degree, then got a master's, then graduated early, and he's like, he's the best guy of all time, he's amazing, he's incredible. And then Lydia goes, well, you know, I saw those Playboys in there, he's got his Playboys, and then he goes, no, those are mine. And then she laughs and looks down, and then all you see is in the corner them fist bump and go.
They just both fully and then every time that Josh says something complimentary about Milton, Josh and Milton are like, they just do a fist bump.
It was the best.
It was so.
It was like a sitcom. Like,
they were like
their
a
relationship
full, like,
was sitcom.
well, and the fact too that he's like a data analyst, so like
Yes.
he's like super smart, and then Milton's super smart, and they both live together, and they've got the microscope in there, and they have their Pokemon League, and they've been like banned because of like talking smack online on the Pokemon League. I was obsessed with him, full MVP, and also just like, I don't know, you know me, I always say, listen, you know, you don't choose your family, and then sometimes friends can be weird on the show, so I know you can't fully judge, especially the family. You can't judge someone off of their family because, you know, a lot of people are very different than their family, but the friends is a big one to me.
Yes.
And we met Milton's friend, and that is a good man.
Yes.
Josh is a good man. He was supportive of his friend. He was complimentary to Lydia. He's like, you guys are so cute together. I mean, he was, to me, I was like green flags all around for Milton with Josh as his friend.
Also closing with Milton and Lydia, when he walked over to Lydia and Uche talking and walks over and in the middle of their big fight, just goes, Uche goes, oh, can we have some time? We're still talking. And he goes, cool, yeah, we just got to leave in 10 minutes. To say, I'm not going to let this toxic bullshit go on any longer, but I'm also not going to undermine my girl and make it like I'm cutting her off. I'm just letting you know, oh yeah, you could talk to her for about 10 more minutes.
Well, he
great.
gave her a way out.
Yes.
It was like, I would have wanted that if I was Lydia. I'd have been like, I don't want to be stuck in this conversation with these cameras for hours. And so then to have my guy pop in and give me like a way out by being like, yeah, by the way, we do have plans in 10 minutes. So like, babe, you good? You good? And then she's like, yeah, I'm going to keep talking to him. He's like, all right, sounds good. And he just popped out. Super secure.
Yeah, not insecure.
Not insecure, knowing that Uche and Lydia have been together. He knows that whole thing. I mean, wow. Very impressed.
Very impressed. Very happy for
The only
both of
time
them.
that we saw Milton a little shaken up was when she started to try to mess around with his microscope, and he was like hands off.
He was rattled. He was like,
get your
"Don't-"
hands off of this. You're going to fuck it up. It's old and I keep messing it up and you're going to mess it up. And that was the one time that he was just like, no.
She's like, who's the geologist? He's like, don't care. Don't touch my gear. It was like, you know, don't touch my Settlers of Catan board game. Like, I have the guys in the right pieces. Do not play with this.
Do not mess with this, okay?
So funny.
But I mean, it is what it is. I do. There's a lot of things with Lydia. Obviously, here's the bottom line for me. I am team Aaliyah for forever.
Yeah.
I adore Aaliyah. I think she's absolutely fantastic and wonderful. And the way that Lydia handled everything from what we saw, obviously I was not down with. And now there's a lot of question marks with what Uche has brought up, okay? There's a lot of question marks going on. But with her interactions with Milton, I feel like I agree with you. They bring out the best in each other. I like them together. But don't get me wrong. I have some questions about Lydia.
Yeah.
And we'll see what goes down.
Sure.
After, let's get into our final piece,
yeah.
which is Uche, Aaliyah, and then obviously Uche and Lydia.
Yeah.
Okay, so we start this whole episode series, the episode 5, out with Uche coming off from finding out that Aaliyah was not in the pods.
Yeah.
And we see him take a call from the producers. And I'll just say this, on the call right away, you know, I understand the feeling of like, whoa, what happened? You weren't there and being super disappointed with that. But to me, it right away was like, hey, there needs to be the understanding and the empathy of like what Aaliyah's walked through. Like Aaliyah, first of all, the shaming of the cheating situation went down. And then after that, she ended up finding out that her bestie in the house used to date you. And that was a later on shock, like right before proposals. And then she went back and talked to Lydia and she's finding out all this stuff. It is so much. This experiment already is so beyond overwhelming. Everything that Aaliyah went through, there needs to be understanding from the partner of what this person has had to walk through. But it ends up being very much like a conversation where, you know, he's like, you only thought about yourself.
Yeah.
And she was like, I had to protect myself, Uche. As someone who cares about me, you got to understand that. And he's like, exactly. You only cared about you.
Yeah.
And there wasn't that understanding of like what this person has gone through. Now, I do want to say that if Aaliyah was like, fuck this, I'm leaving.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm not showing up back in the pods. I'm not doing this. You know, I was like chanting, yes,
Yes.
yes, yes. I loved that move. If that was what her desire was, I don't want to take that away. But there is a part of me that thinks perhaps because when her and Uche did sit down later in the episode together, and she said that she kind of had this idea that they would continue their relationship out of the pods. And then even on the phone call, there was a moment that looked like it got cut out where Aaliyah said, when he's like, well, you were just gone, you didn't write a letter and whatever. And she goes, well, I didn't have time. That makes me think that she was like maybe told producers, I don't want to get engaged, or I want to be away from Lydia, or I want to be out of this experiment, but I want to tell Uche that I still want to be with him. And like they didn't allow that or something because they wanted more drama.
Yes.
Because let's look at the situation. We're walking away right now with 2 couples. Yeah. So they have to get some sort of thing going. And so I bet that she probably, or it seems like maybe she wanted to communicate those things, but they just like said,
shut it down,
or like told her, we'll tell Uche, don't worry, or whatever. And then made it look like she just bailed, even though I loved that scenario. If that's what happened. But
the whole Aaliyah Uche thing for me was like both, I thought had points for frustrations.
Sure.
It was just the way it was done. So for me, if I'm going to be critical of both of them, I'm going to go, my criticalness of her, I'm going to start with her because I felt like hers was much less than Uche's, but my criticalness of her was only if you had the option, but I'm saying, by the way, if the producers didn't keep her from not being able to talk, was, like he brought up like a letter would have been nice, something just to let me know, hey, this is too much for me. You just were dating this girl 2 months ago. Sounds like there's a lot of toxic stuff going on. Sounds like you guys were hooking up weeks ago and now all of a sudden you're here. I'm hanging out with her. She's telling me stuff you're not telling me.
Smothering me.
She's smothering me. You know, this is way too much drama. I'm out. Hey, it was really nice meeting you, but this is too much for me. Like her reason for leaving, 100%. I do understand his frustration for that, being like, hey, I thought we were going to get married and all of a sudden I just never see you again. But with him, for me, I just felt like there was just no empathy. The whole thing was like argumentative lawyer talk. It was like, it was just, here's all the reasons why you're wrong. Here's all the reasons why I'm right. Half truths. You know, he even mentions the, like, when he's talking about Lydia, you know, following him on Instagram and looking at all his, quote, these people he knows and, you know, looking at their Instagrams and following him, blah, blah, blah. He kept out the fact that they were all like girls he was like seeing.
He just said people.
He just said
when he talked to
people.
Aaliyah,
So that was like a half truth where he's not alluding to the fact that like we later learned from Lydia that he was like cheating and that like those were women he was talking to while he was talking to Lydia. So Lydia was like following that. All just, and then he never told, because he had only said, oh, I only cheated once and it was when I was 19. But he lied to her. So he originally like made Aaliyah feel so bad about her cheating. Meanwhile, he had cheated like months previously, according to Lydia.
Yeah.
So for me, it was just very like, you're not meeting her in this whole process and caring about her and being like, oh my God, I care about this person so much. She's out there sad. I want to be there for her. It was all like, I deserve this. I get this. How come I'm not having this? You're selfish. And because of that, it was just very like argumentative and not like caring. Like if this person was going to be your fiance, I feel like I'd be just a lot more sensitive to it and less like, who's going to win this argument? And I win and I'm not with you anymore. Bye. And it was like, it almost felt like now that he had her begging to come back, he was cool. And it was like, I'm mad at you for all these reasons. Now that you're begging to come back, actually, I don't want you. I win. Right. So it was just a weird thing. Like, why would he go to dinner with her, pursue her, and then just break up with her? It just felt like strange to me.
Okay, so that's
if my point is this, let me close with this. If there's no producer involvement, if this is all producer manipulated and you have like, you know, all these things, and this is go to his post on Instagram, right?
Yeah, I'm about to talk about that.
You get into that. So as on the screen, those are my opinions.
Yes.
But I know there's a lot of outlying factors. So that's just according to what the screen says.
So the dynamic with Aaliyah, Uche, and Lydia is very hard to follow for me because we have what we're getting on screen, but then we're also getting information from Uche on Instagram. So obviously before we talked about it last week that Uche had said that he wasn't allowed to share with Aaliyah that Lydia was there as his ex, and he wasn't allowed to say it until a certain point. Producers came out after and they said like that wasn't the case, that they were allowed to talk about it. The producers had no idea, and then they found out day one, and they wanted to take Uche and Lydia out of the experiment because they said that it's going to ruin the dynamic, but then they went ahead and let them do it because they really wanted to go. So there's Uche saying one thing, producer saying another thing. Bottom line, I don't know which is true. I tend to believe the contestant versus the producer. For sure. But then we had, after this episode came out, then, and this is just one of the many examples of why I'm just very excited for the reunion to see if they do really get into these conversations and then the conversations that the cast has afterwards. But on Uche's Instagram, he didn't ask me anything, and someone said, why did you tell Aaliyah it was over? Was she not what you expected looks-wise? He said that it's over between us is a post-production soundbite, and I rewatched it, and you didn't see him when he said that. He said, at lunch, we both forgave each other, we held hands, and we shared our first kiss. Then we agreed to date outside of the show. So the question is... If that is
the case, then that seems like... they chopped it up, made it more dramatic than it was. And the real enemy here is the producers.
Yeah. So I'm super interested to find out if they are still dating, if he's going to be allowed to talk about that on the reunion, if they'll be there, like what's going to go down. So that's with Uche and Aaliyah. It seems like either they then started dating or they're currently dating.
Yes.
Which, you know, I'm going to stand by my opinion that I had in our first recap episode, that I'm like, I absolutely adore Aaliyah. I worship her. I think she's absolutely fantastic. And I am like Uche. It's just a lot of red flags so far. So, I just, that's my opinion. But then we have Aaliyah, who's mentioned to him then in the phone call and then at dinner that she was like, well, maybe Lydia saw an email that you were auditioning for the show. And I was like, Evan, you brought that up last week.
I was like,
and then at a dinner or lunch or whatever, Aaliyah said, well, she knew that you were going to come. And he's like, what? She's like, well, she was telling the ladies first day that she had a feeling she was going to run into someone from her past, which that's a strange thing to say unless you have like the psychic feelings, which I guess could be possible, but definitely alludes to that she probably knew that Uche was going to be there. Now, here's the thing. Again, we have to think about producer involvement. Did Lydia find out beforehand via an email or something, or did producers tell Lydia beforehand? Did they reach out to Lydia after they cast Uche? So maybe she went in already knowing and she didn't sneak to try to find anything, who knows? But then Uche tells Aaliyah that, like you had mentioned, that Lydia did things that were against affected his privacy. He left her because of that, but then they started doing better and he came back to her life. And then there was the whole Instagram, her checking out women that he was following stories. So then he left her. But then he says that he then goes back to her because she was really struggling. And then he stayed with her until she had a good group of friends. So then I'm starting to think, again, I don't want to dismiss if any of this is like 100% the case. Who knows? Because we got a full like he said, she said going on. But it seems very much to me like then when we hear the Lydia piece of it, that if he was cheating, then he was doing what he said, which was dating her and then dumping her and then dating her and then dumping her. And she was at a vulnerable place. And if he was cheating, then she's checking up to see like, the whole thing, so messy. So again, I don't know, but when they sat down together, he showed her, he said, I have so many people that reached out to me, and he showed her a screenshot. My little detective brain right away was like, if a ton of people reached out to him and he took the time to get the screenshot, wouldn't he then do a swipe through and show her many screenshots? Or did just one person reach out?
Probably one person reached out, and then he reached out to a couple of others and said, has she looked at any of your stories? And they said yes. And it's like, oh wait, all these people, it's like, maybe it did feel blown out of proportion.
But what I want to know is the entire story, because if he did cheat, was she looking at the woman's story who he cheated with? That's a big question mark.
And even if not, dude, if I was dating someone and they cheated on me, I'd be absolutely like looking at these other people that they may be seeing. I'd like every once in a while I'd be kind of just sneaking a peek of like, what are they up to, or what are this person like, just out of curiosity, right? Let alone like, are they currently with them? Like, and that's not crazy to on social media look at other people's accounts.
No, and did she randomly go by his house and take a photo and say, I see you? Or were they, like she said, on the phone talking? And was it kind of like, oh, I haven't seen you in a long time. He's like, I miss you. And then she's like, I'm outside your house. Hi. Like, what happened?
Exactly.
Because that is what's going down. At the end of the day, too, let's just say a lot of what Uche is saying is true. But then there's also then things being left out, like the cheating part.
Yeah.
Which then would piece certain things together. And what else are you leaving out? I don't know. There's big question marks that I don't think we're going to have answered until the reunion, if ever even, which are so messy. And it's so frustrating to watch, to be honest, because I want to have an opinion, but I'm having a hard time with an opinion other than this is messy and feels toxic and it's not good. And my big concern is I'm like, Aaliyah, I don't want you to have to deal with this mess. Yeah. And I think you deserve the world. And so that's my big takeaway.
Yeah. And to wrap this, the main thing I didn't like about the Uche situation was that, like, why are you doing this? So unless producers made him do it.
Again, there's so much potential
if producers didn't make him do it, it was like, why are you showing up here just to wreck Milton's life? Like, what is the deal here? Like, you're clearly just coming in for chaos sake. Yeah. So if he was forced to do it, that's different. But if he didn't, I was like, what is the point of all this?
I know.
So anyway.
God, it's messy. It's complicated. It's messy,
but all three of these shows are a blast, and we're loving every minute of it.
I am loving every minute of it. I felt so much rage with JP. I felt so much confusion with Uche and Lydia. But I cannot wait to see. And like I said, the reunion is what I'm really looking forward to. And I'm also looking forward to the contestants speaking, because the fact that then Uche's been, you know, coming out and saying these things against production is always, you know, it's great to then have pushback against production where it's like, no, let's actually like, it's fun to watch, but like, let's talk about the reality of this. And I hope that some of the other contestants are able to then share that as well.
I think next week's going to be really pivotal because it's like now they're like really in life together, and that's where we're going to really see things, you know, will you survive? So
For sure.
Call home?
Yes, let's do a call home.
Let's get it.
Finally.
Remember, you can always call home.
So good.
Hi, Mom and Dad. I have a question today that has to be anonymous, just in case anyone is listening. I am too embarrassed to tell my friends about this. So I was hoping to get your insight. Maybe you can analyze me a little bit, tell me what's going on. But essentially, my partner and I have been together for about 8 years. I am 29. He's 27, and we're at the stage where all of our friends are getting engaged. We are one of the last ones. But I know that it's coming. It's something we talk about. We've looked at diamonds together. He knows exactly, you know, my dream ring. But kind of as we get closer to like what might be the time, I'm not excited. I've never been the girl who really dreamt about her wedding. This was never like, you know, on my vision board. I never even really thought about kids until recently. I do want them. But I don't know if that's just because it's just who I am as a person, and it's just sort of, it feels like we've been together so long and everything's guaranteed anyway. But I am worried for, of course, some other reasons, that we've had some like issues in the past, some differences. So I'm, of course, just in my head worrying, am I not excited because this is not right? Or am I not excited because it already feels like we're pretty locked in? Help me. Love you guys.
Okay.
Interesting question.
This is a very interesting question. Okay, so I'm going to just come right out and say I think the best thing, my opinion would be that maybe the best thing for you to kind of have a clear path to why you're feeling the way you're feeling is to just currently take the idea of marriage off the table right now. I think that first and foremost might be the best call, because let's just say it's just because you're not excited because you're already locked in. So then if you take the idea of marriage off the table, then there's not that pressing feeling of like, okay, it's around the corner and he might propose, and then what if I'm not ready and or there's all these other factors. Like I think then there's that pressure, and you don't have to ever feel the pressure to get married. Like I know you're saying all your friends are getting married, and if that's their choice, great. But if you never want to get married and you want to stay together with this person for forever, great. You don't have to get married, you know? So I know that when you have a lot of people around in your life there's that feeling like, oh, should we? It's like, no, if you want to get married, get married. If you want this person to be your partner forever and never get married, then don't get married, you know? So I would take that off the table. Have the conversation maybe with your partner if you're feeling like he might propose at some point, that you can maybe just say, hey, you know what? I'm kind of in a space right now where I just need to kind of not feel that pressure. And I don't even know necessarily how I feel about that. So can we like maybe put a pause on a potential proposal for a minute if you feel like he might do that? That might end up bringing up conversation too that might be important with your partner, depending on his reaction. Your partner might be like, oh my God, thank God you're saying that, because I don't really think I want to get married either. And then you guys might have this great conversation where you're like, maybe the whole marriage thing isn't for us, but we want to stay together.
Yeah.
You know, and it might take off some stress and unite you both in this way. Or there might be a defensiveness that might aggravate certain issues that you feel like you guys are already having. So I think that if you do that, then you might be able to then see more clearly if it's just more like, I'm not excited to get married. I don't even know if I really want to.
Yeah.
Or is it because there's these issues that you've been having? Yeah, that's my first thought.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to be dad here a little bit.
Yeah.
And I think that there's something that you, like, because you alluded to it at the end, that there's some issues and some disagreements and some difference of opinions. I'm sensing from you, I'm going to go full judge mode. I'm sensing from you that you guys are kind of on coast mode. You're kind of complacent in the relationship. You kind of don't want to rock the boat, but you also aren't excited. Mm-hmm. There's things in there that are bugging you, but you're also like, is it worth fighting over? Is it worth breaking up over? Nah, I think it's fine. You know, I don't think marriage means anything in this. I think passion and like excitement for your relationship is what like is represented by marriage right now. And I think that is not hitting. Mm-hmm. So I'm not sensing from you anti-marriage. I'm sensing from you not very excited about your relationship right now. Mm-hmm. And I think that marriage freaks you out because it's locking you more into what you're not that excited about right now. Mm. It's almost like someone looking at you being like, aren't we so in love? And you're like, uh-huh. That's what marriage is like saying to you right now. And so you're like, if we just kind of just chill and don't rock the boat, and it's like, it's fine. But you know, I think you need to kind of go, am I cool living like this for the rest of my life? Mm-hmm. Just kind of in, half out, half excited, not really. We're kind of coasting. We've been together for so long. It's fine. Mm-hmm. That's the energy I'm getting. I don't know you. I don't know the situation, but that's the energy I'm getting. I think you need to kind of take a moment and breathe and go, what do I want out of my life? Mm-hmm. Can we get there with this person? Yeah. If not, maybe start making some hard choices, because you want to be excited about your life. I'm not saying you need to get married. I'm not saying you need to give a shit about marriage at all. But whatever marriage is doing to you right now, which is pushing you away, that I want you to be in a place where you're like, oh, I don't care about marriage, but I'm excited about our next chapter. I'm excited about growing. I'm excited about taking things to the next level. Not just like, are we fine? Are we not? There's kind of a lot we don't vibe on, but we're fine. Like, that's not a place. You're going to wake up in 5 years and be like, oh man, I wish I would have figured that out earlier. So start uncovering things, start maybe having tough conversations, start dealing with some of the things that matter to you. I'm getting a sense that you're putting yourself second a little bit. Take a moment, check in with yourself. What's important? And I would say get ahead of it. Yeah, I think to, you know, what you were saying with not rocking the boat, you know, you said that you and your partner were together, I think 8 years. It was like 7 or 8. Yeah, it's been a long time, right? And so I understand completely. I mean, both of us as two people who have our times, have been in a relationship for, you know, a really long time. When you've been together with someone for a long time, like you hit those moments where you're like, you know, this is tough, or I have certain issues with these things, but I don't want to rock the boat. It's just I'm too tired. I've been working too much. I don't want to deal with that shit. It's just too much, because it's also then the fear of like, what if it ends the relationship? And when you've been with someone for a long time, that thought is scary, because that's what your day-to-day is used to. Do I want to be dating? Oh, there's so many things that come up. All that stuff. But I would say, you know, at this point right now, like Evan was saying, like, don't be afraid to rock the boat. Like, if you have these questions in your relationship, you know, I'm not saying, you know, you sit them down the second after you have listened to this episode and go like, we need to work these things out, or like, I got a problem with this. But I would really think about like, you know what? Yeah, it might rock the boat. But if I have some of these issues, I need to talk about them with my partner, because I'm feeling in this zone where I don't really know what I want right now. And there's these underlying things, and we got to talk it out. And what might come of that is maybe it reignites some things in your relationship. It affirms that this is the person for you. You all work through some stuff together. Or maybe it shows you that, like, you know what? I don't know if this is right for me. And I don't want to keep walking through it, even if it's not like these detrimental things, you know, but you're just like, maybe this isn't for me. And maybe we have just been together for a really long time, so we've just gotten comfortable. Apathy is kind of a slow death.
Yeah.
It's not, you know what I mean? When something's horrible, you're like, okay, I got to get out or, you know, fix it. But when everything's fine, it's really easy to just kind of go, okay, I just kind of,
and of course, please, let's make this clear. When you're in a long-term relationship, there are many times of apathy. There's a lot of moments where you're feeling full apathy.
Lack of passion is different than we have issues.
Right. But I'm saying there's many times of apathy. It doesn't mean like the relationship is dying, but it's more like, okay, we need to have conversations as to like after a minute of apathy, when you're like, I'm just tired and burnt out. After it's been a while of that, you're like, okay, well, we got to sit down and kind of figure out, you know, where the spark of life is here. But
we wish you luck.
Yes, sending you so much love and family. Tune in next Wednesday for more Love is Blind. And also remember, we got our Golden Bachelor and Bachelor in Paradise recap coming, I believe, Monday.
Yes.
So stay tuned for that. We love you.
We love you guys.
Have a great week. Mwah.
Mwah.
Bye.
Bye.